Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yow. Boy, oh boy, was this rough. So for you guys, for you dear viewers, I did the mind-numbing and excruciating task of watching 2 straight hours of Crowder videos. This guy is incredibly consistent on YouTube. I don't know if you can see this, but he streamed this on the 11th. He streamed this on the 11th, just a couple days ago. Every time this guy uploads a video, 1 million views. And I cannot figure out why anyone would watch this willingly. Unless you're like watching this to make fun of it, I don't understand why anyone would watch this willingly. It is, okay, we'll get into the details later, but there's 3 things, there's 3 separate sections we'll talk about to kind of, we'll do just an honest fact check. We're just going to do an honest fact check on this stuff. This is Steve Crowder, the Pride of Canada. There's going to be 3 main sections of this. First is the kind of trans issues that he starts talking about. Then cancel culture, the culture of canceling, and then George Floyd stuff. So we'll just go through and we'll look at this and we'll say, hey, if you're watching this show, what's going on with your brain? Okay, so let's just jump right into it. This is from March 11th, 2021, year of our Lord, and he has a genius on his show, the genius political mind of Rand Paul, and this is how he introduces him. Here we go.
But I do, and I say that because you can just see other people getting irritated here when he was talking with Assistant Health Secretary Rachel Levine, doctor, and providing actual scientifically accurate medical information. And you can just see the frowns. We have a clip, and then we have Senator Rand Paul.
Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field. And if confirmed,
well, thanks for informing the practicing doctor.
Health, I would certainly be pleased.
We'll come back to it. Don't worry.
To come to your office and talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question.
So the most beautiful thing about that little clip is Rand Paul is an ophthalmologist. Paul specializes in cataract and glaucoma surgeries, LASIK procedures, and corneal transplants. So maybe if a young trans kid needs some eye help, he can weigh in. Also, I just thought this was kind of funny. Paul has faced not to give him a hard time here, but this would be the least of the hard time that Rand Paul deserves. Paul has faced 2 malpractice lawsuits between 1993 and 2010. That pesky government coming in to take a look at what I'm doing in there to people's faces. He was cleared in one case while the other was settled for 50 grand. Damn, Rand, what'd you do? 50 grand, Rand? Also, I mean, it's just like, it's like trying to explain something to a baby with these people, because you watch that clip of that, this doctor giving this testimony in front of this goofball Rand Paul. And the doctor's like, well, it's a complicated thing. It's a complicated thing, but I can walk you through the procedure if you want, and you come to my office, And this is exactly, I'll put a link to this, but this is pretty much seems to be medical consensus. And I'll put a link. This is from the Mayo Clinic. They have a long bit about when you would give a young person puberty blockers. And I'll read you just the end of this. What other treatments are needed? Assessment and counseling by a behavioral health provider can help you and your child as you move through the decision-making process and provide support during therapy. After a period of adjusting to pubertal blockers, adolescents might work with their care. So basically, what you'll learn from this, if you read this article, is that this is something that medical professionals work with their patient about. And Rand Paul doesn't know that, for one, because he's an ophthalmologist. hey, I got a piece of wood in my eye. Rand, get it out. I trust you. Get it out of my eye. He doesn't know about the specific area of medical practice in the first place, but if he would read up on it, he would know that there's a whole process to this, that they would decide, oh yeah, this is the right thing to do for this kid, and so on, etc. And just, I don't know if this is if you've never read about this or don't know anything about this, like Steven Crowder and people like him have to either pretend to be, or what they're actually just too lazy. I mean, despite this guy getting paid way too much money to do this really, really dumb show, he should have the time to look this stuff up. But I'll read you just a little piece of this article, if you don't already know this, just to get a little bit of a better understanding. What are the benefits of use of pubertal blockers? Gender dysphoria is a feeling of discomfort or distress that might accompany a difference between experience and expressed gender and sex assigned at birth. For children who have gender dysphoria, suppressing puberty might improve mental well-being, reduce depression and anxiety, improve social interactions and integration with other kids, eliminate the need for future surgeries, reduce thoughts or actions related to self-harm. So blah, 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 blah. This would be something that a doctor who, not an ophthalmologist, okay? If this kid had something wrong with their eyes, yes, go to Rand Paul. Well, don't go to Rand Paul. Go to a real ophthalmologist. But if they had if this was going on, they would go to the doctor. They would go to a specialist in this. They would talk to them, and they would probably go to a bunch of specialists actually, and they would assess: is this going to help this child? Is this going to make their life better? And then they would move forward with it. This is pretty, it's fairly standard stuff. But the thing is, that's why that doctor was like, well, this is a very complicated field. That's exactly right. This is, it's not just like, well, I don't like it, so no, or something like that. It is complicated. They have to basically psychologically assess and talk to this child and figure out what's going on and figure out what's best for them and blah, 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 okay? Okay, so then we get Rand. He gets Rand on the show. You got a good show when you could bag a good guest like Rand.
But I appreciate. I just showed that clip of you with Dr. Rachel Levine. First off, my question to you, Senator Rand Paul, is how did it feel to have someone sitting there at this hearing informing you of the subtle and nuanced details of transgender medicine, of which I'm sure you were not privy?
Yeah, I thought, maybe Dr. Levine was going to say, now, son, you can't.
So Rand's going off like a true king. And he's an expert on this area because if you look into the eyes of a person, you can tell everything, I guess. But this is pretty open and shut thing. Transgender kids are a very small percentage of the population. So, of course, you would have an expert in that area do the assessment and talk to the kid and do blah, 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 and figure it out what's best for the kid. I mean, this is pretty much open and shut. Rand Paul's obviously a kook, and we'll talk about him more. But, it's just like, this is obvious red meat. But the interesting thing about this, too, is that they're kind of doing we're not being hateful. This is just, we're concerned about kids. But just days ago, there was a video circulating of the Pride of Canada, Stefan Crowder, circulating of him, I guess, pretending to be a trans person going into a Planet Fitness. And I actually watched this video because this was more like an internet meme a couple of years ago of like, look at this dum-dum. But I actually watched this and I don't even really know what he was going for in this video, because he walks it. It's basically like a high schooler just kind of annoying low-paid employees at a Planet Fitness is what it really is if you watch it. The video is called Hidden Cam Cross-Dressing at Planet Fitness. I would urge you to watch this. It is like a high school, like two high schoolers get a camcorder, back at two high schoolers get their phone out. They're going to do a TikTok where they annoy somebody who's just trying to do their job. That's what this is like to me. But if the idea here is like, oh, we are just concerned about the kids. We're not being transphobes. We're not being transphobic, okay? We're just worried about the kids. Well, dude, 5 years ago or whatever, we have access to the internet. And this is you're like, oh, look, I'm dressed up like a lady. That's wrong. So, I mean, what are you even trying to do here, buddy? It's because, and we all know the answer. It's because from the dummies. Hey, dummies. We know you want to hear this dumb stuff, so cough it up. I mean, it is kind of amazing just how much these people look down on their audience. Like how much they just like how little they think of their audience. Oh yeah, Rand Paul's a doctor. Of course he knows about the complexities of trans issues because he's done LASIK surgery on people. This guy's all over the place. I love it. Here's just a little taste. He's a libertarian. Let the market decide. Mere months after running on a platform of stop letting the government pick winners and losers, let the free market decide, he bragged about bringing home $250 million via earmarked for an Ohio River project, which will, quote, help keep Kentucky coal competitive against alternatives like wind and solar. Let the market decide. Oh, hey, I work for the government. I got a bunch of money. Basically a big handout to Kentucky coal. Man, that does not sound like the free market at all, because that's who funds him. I mean, this guy is from another planet, this guy. Like, you can't say this stuff and be semi-normal. I mean, you can't even pretend to have the fake beliefs that he has and pretend to be normal, like libertarianism. Because people who really believe that stuff are usually like young boys, you know? Like you kind of don't really understand anything and you're like, I'm not part of anything. I was not raised by parents basically for more than a decade probably, without which I couldn't have survived. I speak a common language. I live in a society that totally protects all my quote unquote rights that I wouldn't be able to have without. There's all kinds of different inspectors and food inspectors to make sure I'm safe. Oh no, I exist all independent of that. It's the beliefs that he pretends to believe in are insane, and he makes them even more insane with his just open, ridiculous scam artist opportunism. You gotta love Rand Paul. He's the greatest. Also, what I love, I mean, this is truly mind-boggling. But so these guys are like, keep the government out. Like, this is an old classic problem that these guys have of keep the government out of everything and just let people do what they want. And however, Rand Paul, because of his constituents, probably, the dude probably doesn't really believe anything, but probably because of his constituents, he's very, very anti-abortion. And this is an age-old problem that they have, but he's kind of circled the square with something called natural rights libertarianism, which is like these cells are, if you interfere with that, then that's rights. Those are its rights. You're doing aggression on that's rights. So we have to intervene there, even though it's in someone else's body. I mean, it is astounding. And by the way, I think Ayn Rand herself, I think Ayn actually did not believe. Ayn Rand was pro-choice, I think, too. The genius Ayn Rand. By the way, has anybody out there ever tried to read any of those books? They are not good. I'm sorry. They are not good. We're going back into old school territory here of like, oh, abortion and all this stuff. But I got to say, those Ayn Rand books, unreadable. I tried to read Atlas Shrugged once and I'm like, what? This is famous? This is like, it felt like something like, somebody in a creative writing class would out, Okay, let's move on to the very important topic of cancel culture. Here we go.
All right, never mind. All right. And this is just my final point on this. They're trying to act like cancel culture exists on both sides. So, nope.
So, of course, we have to point out first this guy's complaining and whining about being kicked. He's doing this in his pants about being banned from social media. You have 1 million views in one day and 5 million subscribers on social media. But I can't do social media. He got himself banned from Twitter because he was doing election fraud stuff. So it's not that he's being canceled, it's that he's too dumb to read the terms of service of these platforms. Misleading, this is on Twitter, misleading information about outcomes. We will label or remove false or misleading information intended to undermine public confidence in an election or civic process. This includes, but is not limited to, disputed claims that could undermine faith in the process itself, blah, 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 misleading claims about the results of outcome or civic process, which calls for, or could be, blah, 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 blah. You get it. I mean, what these companies are trying to do, and this is pretty obvious, and we could talk about this and debate this, blah, 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 blah. But what they're trying to do is they looked at the Capitol thing and they said, oh, we're kind of contributing to this, aren't we? So they cracked down on it. And look, again, this is free market guy, and if you want to use these private companies, you got to read the rules. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I would generally, I fall on the side of just like let all that stuff, let all these toilets, let all this stuff fall into the
toilets.
And let people figure it out. But look, you want to use these platforms. This guy's all, let private businesses, blah, 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 blah. They will make the best decisions. Okay, well, they made a decision and now you have to live with it, okay? Stupid. And now you're running to the government for help. You idiot. You dummy. You fool. You loser. You dingus. You dummy. You idiot. The other funny thing about these guys whining about cancel culture is that they invented it. Like the right-wing brain invented cancel culture. We could start with McCarthyism, the original canceling. And that's harsh canceling. That's like you're blacklisted from this, you're blacklisted from that. Oh, I'm keeping a book. I'm keeping a book of who has a certain political belief, and they'll never work in this town again. And blah, 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 blah. They're the original cancelers. And by the way, where did the term witch hunt come from? Oh, McCarthyism. That was a witch hunt. It was a witch hunt of people who were leftists. Witch hunt. Guess where witch hunt came from? Salem witch trials. Religious kooks burning women at the stake and seeing if they float to doing their old school version of canceling, which is murdering women who they suspected to be witches in Salem, Massachusetts, because of their religion, their religious fervor. These guys invented this stuff. And here we go. In this own thing, beautifully, he makes a little, he works in a little reference to McCarthy style cancel culture. Check this out.
That's a good thing.
Especially if you're doing it in a circus tent in the USSR on your honeymoon.
Yeah.
Why do more people not talk about the fact that Bernie Sanders went to the Soviet Union for his honeymoon?
Yeah. By the way, this wasn't like last year or something like that. This is when it was really unpopular.
This is when it was really bad.
It's like going to South Africa during apartheid.
And by the way, that wasn't his decision. His wife.
Bernard Sanders went to the Soviet Union. We'll talk about why in a second. But Bernard Sanders went to the Soviet Union. By the way, Ronald Reagan went to the Soviet Union around the same time. But Bernard Sanders went to the Soviet Union. Maybe we should put him in a book. We should remember. How come no one remembers? How come it's not written in a book? Maybe we could what color should that book be? I don't know, like a black book of some kind? I don't know. A list? Maybe it could be a list. Maybe, and the cover could be black. I don't know. But maybe we should write down that in a book that this guy went to this place. And he should be labeled for that forever. And he should not be taken serious politically because of it. I have no self-awareness. I'm an idiot. Bye-bye. What's super interesting about this, too, is that old school McCarthyism style canceling. That's real canceling. That was real canceling. And what's interesting about this is that they use this tactic during the primary with Bernard Sanders, very similarly to what Stefan Crowder, the Pride of Canada, is doing right there. And I'll read you a quote from the New Yorker actually did. I remember this during the primary. The New York Times was running all kinds of stories about Bernard Sanders. He's a he's a Russian. He went to Russia and he's a Soviet and we got to blacklist him. right out of the Cold War paranoia McCarthyism playbook crap. Here we go. Here's a quote from the New Yorker article. This was indeed the spirit of the time. They're talking about Bernard Saunders going to Russia. This was indeed the spirit of the time. The Soviet Union was opening up. President Ronald Reagan visited Moscow around the same time that Sanders traveled to Yaroslavl. I don't know how to say it, but it's some Russian city. But the Times cast the agenda and the instructions as somehow sinister. Old school, same old stuff. The original, the OG cancel. The agenda is titled, quote, a plan for informational and propaganda work, unquote. And I remember you could look up this article in the New York Times. The New York Times just straight up, they were just like, yeah, we're just going to red bait on this because we don't like Bernard. Stefan Crowder here, referencing the OG cancel, McCarthyism, Red Scare, the OG Red Scare. I love it. Beautiful. Whining about cancel culture while basically doing the original cancel culture tactic. Beautiful. And of course, blah, 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 blah.
Everyone's scared. Everyone's scared.
Blah, blah, blah. And we could keep going back of the long history of right-wingers trying to cancel LGBTQ people. Not just cancel like, oh, I can't tweet that I saw a Hispanic person in a Walgreens. Not just that you get canceled from that, but you can't have a place to live, that you can't get a job, that you get fired from your job, that you have to live in secret because if you don't, then you'll get fired from your job. They are the masters of canceling. Their whole history is cancellation, these people. And now they have the nerve they get their little asses kicked off Twitter because they can't follow the dumb rules of this stupid, dumb app. These idiots.
Toilets.
These absolute...
Toilets.
They can't, they're too dumb to dog whistle their nonsense. So they get kicked off and now they complain about it. Oh, we've been canceled. Okay, so now he makes a stupid choice of going into George Floyd territory. So here we go.
Fentanyl, methamphetamine, also THC, stuff like that.
Killed.
So fentanyl, COVID-19 in his system. Here's just what, before we move on to this, why aren't we being consistent? Fentanyl, methamphetamine, also THC, stuff like that. Remember the Florida guy who died in a motorcycle crash? He was listed as a COVID-19 death. Why isn't George Floyd being listed as a COVID-19 death? When we say, oh, it's Derek Chauvin, which, again, the report doesn't show that he was killed by, by the pressure to his neck. Yeah. Horrible.
State independent autopsies agree on homicide in George Floyd case, but clash on underlying cause. A medical examiner's office on Monday ruled that the death of George Floyd was homicide and he died from asphyxiation. So, I guess we'll just keep watching.
Police training. We know that drugs obviously would have interfered right now with COVID-19. There would have been some comorbidities. I would imagine.
This is, by the way, the pro. Of course, we always come back to this: small government pro-lifers. Cops kill a guy. They're like, no, that's actually fine. How does that make sense? I don't know. I think you know. Wink, wink. I think you. Wink, wink. I think you know how. I looked this up too. This thing where he's like, there's a guy got in a motorcycle accident. He was counted as a COVID death. I looked into this, and by the way, that doesn't exist anymore. Like they changed it, but there was some guy who tested positive for COVID. He also died in a motorcycle accident. It was basically like a reporting error. But if you think about it, this whole thing makes no sense in the first place because what you would have to have is widespread, for this to mean anything, it would have to be widespread reporting of people dying in like car crashes and all this stuff. Widespread people dying that way, and then it being counted as COVID, which there's no evidence for. So it's like, oh, okay, dude. It's this little just that he throws a treat to the dummies, He might not even know he's doing this. Who knows who writes these things for him? But it's like he throws a treat out to the dummies. Like, look, a guy got counted as COVID, but he died in a motorcycle accident, which if you're just like like watching this, you're like, oh, COVID statistics are fake or something. You know, it just like puts the little treat in your head, I guess. I don't know what it is. But what I love about this is he has, so Brian Callen is like at least, I don't know. I honestly don't know if Brian Callen's funny. I've never watched even a half of a second of any of his comedy, but at least he's kind of considered a comedian as opposed to Crowder. So I feel like Crowder's like kind of happy to have him there, but it takes a little turn here with what's his name again? With Brian Callen.
Was a knee on neck.
He did kneel on his neck for 8 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
No, of course not. But
Steven.
Yeah, it's a terrible thing. Hold on. I glossed over something really quick. So George Floyd had COVID-19?
Yes.
So you said it, but I have not heard that before.
Yeah, he had COVID-19. The toxicology report shows he had COVID-19.
Yeah, but if you want me to lean on, I can kneel on anybody's neck here. We'll see how well that goes for you.
I guarantee you kneel, but we're not going to die.
So, yeah, that's...
That's like some 10-year-old. So I wouldn't die if you kneel on my neck. I wouldn't die. You kneel on my neck for 9 minutes. I don't want to die. I wouldn't, because I'm a tough, cool guy.
I don't know.
Do you think that's what killed him?
I do think that's what killed him.
Okay, so it wasn't.
I also think though, if you're gonna
Everyone's scared.
kneel on somebody's neck for 8 minutes, that's shitty police work.
Oh, no.
I think it's absolutely crappy police training.
There isn't a cop in this country that agrees with that.
But hold
alienating some of your viewers, Crowder. Some of your bigoted lunatic viewers might not like this. Better cancel him.
No.
Better shut down Callen.
Well, except for the training pamphlet that they handed out. That's how they train these police officers.
Yes.
To kneel on the neck?
Yes.
I mean, kneel on the body, but to...
I know. They train them. We can probably bring it up, have them bring it up from the control room. That's the problem, is they teach these police officers to kneel on the back of the neck.
So let's read a little bit deeper into what he's talking about here. This is from KARE, Minneapolis. In filing a motion to dismiss the charges he faces in the death of George Floyd, former Minneapolis police officer Thomas Lane, he was one of the guys, one of the police officers there at that incident, included 30 pages of MPD training materials, including information on a restraint called the, quote, maximal restraint technique, and a photo of an officer with his knee to a suspect's neck, similar to the hold used by former officer Derek Chauvin, blah, 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 on Floyd. The training materials, a little bit important. You might want to go a little bit deeper when you reference some of this stuff. But, of course, we know Steven Crowder's audience who are 80-year-old bigots, so they don't want to hear this stuff. The training materials specify the maximal restraint technique shall only be used in situations where handcuffed subjects are combative and still pose a threat to themselves, officers, or others, or could cause significant damage to property if not properly restrained. Okay, blah, blah, blah. The slide that includes the photo states that officers should, quote, place the subject in the recovery position to alleviate positional asphyxia. But here's the bigger problem. MPD Chief Medaria Arredondo has said in interviews and press conferences following the death of George Floyd that officers are not trained to place their knee on a suspect's neck like Chauvin did to Floyd. Quote, this was murder. It wasn't a lack of training. Minneapolis Police Chief Medaria Arredondo said in a statement Monday night. This was in June. So that police chief says the training was there. The promise of additional training scheduled to start in 2014 had been part of a multi-million-dollar settlement after David Smith's death. Quote, I can confirm the MPD fulfilled the training requirement. 2014 in-service training, which was given to all officers, covered getting an arrestee from a prone position to a recovery position, seated or on the arrestee's side, where the maximal restraint technique or neck restraint has been used. So Steven Crowder was like, look, they were trained to do this. Not his fault. They were trained. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. He was trained to do this. But he kind of leaves out that the Minneapolis police chief, says that it was murder and that they were actually trained to not do what he was doing the way he did it. So some few problemos there. Seems to have created a little bit of a narrative. I wonder what. And I love how Brian Callen's like, is that true? It seems true. I don't know. Seems true. I don't know. He's like, how many clicks on this video? Are people going to show up to my shows if I appear on this absolute piece of garbage? This bigoted... Hey, are any of your 90-year-old bigoted YouTube subscribers going to show up to my shows and give me some of this? I mean, whatever. Brian Callen... I have no idea what's going on with Brian Callen. In this video, I'm like, well, he just seems to have ended up in this studio, so I don't know. I have a little bit of empathy for him, but what are you going to do?
No, right?
Well, hold on, Brian. Two things can be true at the same time, right?
Yeah.
He would have died of fentanyl, and this is bad
And
police
amphetamine.
work, right?
Yeah.
So both things can be true. It doesn't mean that the officer, and we don't know yet, caused his death, because I think the coroner's report comes out and says, well, his lungs filled up with fluid. That didn't have anything to do with a knee on the neck, right? And I'm not saying it was okay or
know that, and I still think that if you're going to kneel on somebody's neck for 8 minutes, you're going to pay a price for it, and probably should.
No, I agree. I understand.
Brian Callen disrupting the narrative. But Brian, he's one of those. Our audience doesn't wink. Brian, look at my eye. Wink. They don't like those people, Brian. So there you go. Some absolute nonsense from probably the dumbest channel on the internet. That's also the most popular, proving again that Crowder's Law is absolutely, positively true.
What? This is something I have a lot of problems with.
We're looking at 849,000 views streamed 19 hours ago. Holy moly. Holy guacamole. Well, there you go. Crowder's Law in action. We love to see it, and when we watch this show, we go... So, big shout out to Brian Callen. He's pretty uncomfortable, but he needs the views. So, it is what it is, and I appreciate you. And guys, what is it? What is today? If you're watching this not on the day it comes out, then just don't listen to this part. But gonna do a stream on Wednesday, so come to the stream. All right, guys. Well, streaming on Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, year of our Lord.
Bye.
Hey everybody, and thanks so much for watching this video. Like all the other YouTube and podcast perverts, I now have a Patreon. Here you can get daily access to the audio-only feed. And every week on this Patreon, I'm uploading 2 Patreon-exclusive shows. They're like real shows, more produced, more edited. One of them is a behind-the-scenes show where I reveal all the secrets and YouTube scams that I'm doing. And the other one, I just reveal my innermost dark, cringe secrets, as well as
deep dive
video essays and more.
And at the top level,
you can even become a producer of the show and get your name handwritten, hand art, hand drawn at the end of every episode. So if that's something that you are interested in, check it out
on Patreon.
I'll put a link in the, what is the thing called, in the description, I guess. So thank you so much, even if you don't. Thanks for watching this video. I know it's hard to get through these things, but I appreciate you.
This show would be absolute garbage without the producers. Jamie and I may have a disagreement with Sam Cedar's pause button. Jenny Hart! Hey, Jenny Hart, it's me! Oh, she just ignored me. Winter the Muscular. Ethan Weaver.
Vince Barbosa, he is pure ideology at its purest.
Elias Christo, the guy from the hamburger train. Cece LeBlanc. Nez Interlinks. Victor Sonny Duran. Kyle High Level
Ideas.
Hopper. Albert Ellers Ood. Kitty Hooch. Hi, I'm Kitty Hooch. Abby, I don't want cowards teaching my kid green. Tristan Dominic Guzman. Jane Spade. Jessica, a lot of problems stepping off. King Friday. Laura Campbell. Rajawa. Nefatsu Gustav Van Betten. Camilla, Young Slampy, Brian Hernandez, CS. Hey, is that CS? I don't know. Oh wait, yeah, it is CS. Okay, great. Thugs and Kisses denigrates your dude. He's denigrating that dude. Blistered thumb. Bree Gutierrez. Pixels green. Pick green. Old man Shia. And our favorite name so far, Hard Farter. I hope you're okay, Hard Farter. That sounds
the muscular class
like a problem, to be honest. And a very special thanks to Mr. Quarth, Micah G, Mort Calypso, Roberto Vera. Who's that? What? Oh, it's Carl Hochmuth, or Hochmuth. I don't know, Carl, tell me how to say it. Love you! Terza. And don't cancel me for, I'm just reading a name, okay? Tardmaster. Annihilate. And special guest, Stabsterbait. Kevin Jigaleski. Oh, who's that? Oh, it's Mac. You know it's Mac. You can tell it's him. Krill Will. And we got D-Pad Chad. Burn Dubuel. Jake T. Sebastian Delgadillo. Charlotte Glass. CEO of the muscular class. Beth Van Diver.
I'm sorry about that, Beth. You know I love you.
Ray Anthony Cox. Eden Joy. Derek Stoker. Apollo Crow. Liz. Martin Lee. Chelsea G. Derek Jesus Christ Wilson. Matt Woe. Thank you to these beautiful, gorgeous, muscular, soaped up, showering probably 10 to 11 times a day producers.